Moving on, and it sounds cliche because I always say this guy's my favorite, this girl's my favorite. This girl truly is one of my favorites. Our next inductee is the one and only Mistress Belmont. And I think things are going to get a little interesting right now because here to induct Mistress Belmont is an author, and in my opinion, one of the greatest managers in professional wrestling. Got to see this guy a lot, and he certainly could incite a crowd. I think he's going to incite one right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the manager of champions, Sean. Oh, here he comes from the bar, Gorman!
Inductees. Look at this, it says here. Inductees. Keep to 5 minutes induction time, no swearing. Thank you. Truly a pleasure to be here. This is a very special and unique Hall of Fame. It's the only Hall of Fame that I can think of where you can be a Hall of Famer on Friday night, be back to bagging my groceries on Saturday morning. It's good to see so many distinguished faces here. Wagner Brown. Wagner, make yourself at home. Slap somebody. Speaking of slapping people, Ebony Blade is here. Ebony Blade, who always gave his speeches before the events. I'll never forget what he said in Quincy, Massachusetts one night. He said, "When the black man and the white man come together in the ring, they come together in kayfabe. They break the bread, but that bread is a turnbuckle. They eat that bread like George Animal Steel. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, amen." I don't know, I was usually rushing the air while all that was going on. Chris Venom and J.C. Marks. Hey! Whatever. Thinking the same thing. Enough about you jerks. Let me tell you about one of the best women I've ever known. In 2004, I was running all over New England with the tag team of D.C. Dillinger and Eddie Edwards. And to say that I was unattached and not monogamous at this time would be a bit of an understatement. What can I say? The three of us were single and working main events and having a nice time. Anyway, in those years, my eyes never really stayed on one particular woman for very long, either inside or outside of the ring. But all that changed one Sunday afternoon at the Good Times Emporium in Somerville, Massachusetts. I was working as a manager for Sheldon Goldberg's World Women's Wrestling, which was also a nice time. After working there for a few months, I actually became accustomed to being the only guy in the locker room. And I distinctly remember taking particular pause the first time I saw Mistress Belmont walk backstage with her gear bag. Who is that? I asked DC. Dave just happened to be in the women's locker room. Just hanging out. Dave said, her name's Kathy. She grew up in Maine, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. I don't think she's even like seeing Star Wars. But she's cool. I said, weird. I'm totally intrigued. And who could not be intrigued upon seeing Mistress Belmont for the first time? Triple W had some diverse talent, but if you look at pictures of the Triple W roster from that time, it's pretty much basic hot girl number 1, basic hot girl number 2, And then this blue-haired goth chick, wearing black vinyl with a strong yet sexy physique, and just about the most gorgeous face I had ever seen on a woman. Despite the pale vampire makeup and all the black shit around your eyes. Before I or anyone else ever saw Mistress Belmont wrestle, you could only know 3 things about her. Number 1, she was definitely mysterious. Number 2, possibly crazy. And number 3, she would either seduce you or kick your ass depending on her mood. I started managing Kathy a few years later, which I may or may not have both selfishly and unselfishly suggested to the Triple W bookers after the girl I'd been managing for 2 years abruptly disappeared off the face of the planet. When they asked me who I wanted to work with, I immediately said, Belmont. Was I intrigued, interested, or even attracted to Mistress Belmont? Of course I fucking was. But wanting to work with Cassie also came from a genuine desire to do something different than I had been doing as a manager, and I thought Kathy's gimmick was perfect for it. When I managed Dave and Eddie, I performed in the same vein as Bobby Heenan and J.J. Dillon. I was the devious outside associate in the ring who handled the business affairs of his clients. But when I started managing Mistress Belmont, I performed more like Gary Hart when he managed Abdul the Butcher. But as Mistress Belmont's manager, I wasn't just the guy who handled her business affairs. I was her actual handler. In the eyes of the fans, I was only thinking this crazy, untamed female from destroying her opponent, the audience, and sometimes even parts of the venue. Now I will turn the page. And Kathy and I had great fun driving the shows and listening to 80s hair metal while we developed our dynamic and her character. I put Kathy under a black executioner's hood for a ring entrance, and she would scream like a banshee when I removed it during the ring introductions. I suggested to Kathy that when we came down the aisle, she grabbed the empty chairs at ringside and tossed them around like a crazy mad woman. Kathy was so enthusiastic about this idea that she wound up hitting 2 different ring announcers in the head with flying chairs on 2 separate occasions. Sorry, Rich Palladino, but it was fucking hilarious at the time. And here's the thing. Whenever I watched Mistress Belmont act like a total maniac inside the ring, I can remember thinking how funny it was that the fans had no idea that outside the ring, Kathy Small was absolutely nothing like her character. Backstage, Kathy was the most quiet, most humble, and most polite person anyone could ever meet. It was astounding, really, especially in a wrestling locker room. Oh, and here's the other thing about Kathy that made her stand out from the other girls in the Triple W locker room. Kathy wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Can you help me with it? A rat. Kathy was not a rat. Yeah. I'm just being honest here. Though many male wrestlers tried to win Kathy's affections, Kathy was all set. As she told me one time in her subtle Maine accent and in the most straightforward terms, wrestlers aren't really my type in the good department. So fair enough, Kathy, good on you. For the next few years, Kathy and I worked together all over New England for a number of different promotions. At the time, there were a few women wrestlers in the area, and even fewer who could work a solid match. As Kathy got better in the ring and became a legitimately remarkable attraction, she often had no problems getting booked. As a wrestling manager in the 21st century, that's the century, I was a relic from the bygone era that indie promoters often saw as ridiculous expenditure. So I often found getting booked nearly impossible. And in a testament to her natural kindness and generosity, Kathy would always make a pitch for me to manage her on the shows she was booked on, assuring the promoters that her match would certainly be good without me, but would be that much better if I was in her corner. Sometimes the pitch worked, and sometimes it didn't. But the promoters who did take the chance on booking Kathy and I together quickly saw that managers in the 21st century would still be a viable commodity in the world of professional wrestling. Especially in women's matches where the sleazy guy in the purple suit got knocked out by the babyface at the end of the match. The kids in the audience loved it, especially little girls who probably saw me as the mean boy in school who yanked their pigtails during recess. In the years I managed Kathy, She got to wrestle some phenomenal talent, not just from New England, but from all over the world. I got to watch Kathy have memorable matches with Awesome Kong, Malaya Hosaka, Sasha Banks, and of course, I got to watch Kathy and Alexis Nevaeh, aka Alicia Edwards, beat the bag out of each other from pillar to post all over New England. These girls were absolute crowbars in their matches. I can remember watching Kathy and Lish exchange blows from outside the ring and being glad I was not inside the ring. And let me just state this unequivocally. Kathy's steel cage match at Birthday Bash 10 with Alexis Nevaeh is not just a landmark for women's wrestling in New England, it's a landmark for New England wrestling, period. I remember Kathy being worried before the match that she wasn't going to get enough color when it came time for her to, do her thing. But mission accomplished, Kathy. I can still smell the weird odor of pennies from all the plasma you spilled on the canvas that night. Thanks, Chris. As time went on, and as so often happens in the business, Kathy and I got to know each other on a more personal level outside the ring. And it was during our long car rides or after-show meals and late-night diners that I felt something toward Kathy that I had never actually felt for a woman in my entire life. What's the word I'm looking for? Can you, respect, that's what it was. I respected Kathy a lot. The fans in the audience only knew the mysterious blue-haired maniac, Mistress Belmont. And because Kathy usually kept herself backstage with guys and girls in the locker room, only knew Kathy as a girl in black leather who quietly laced up her boots in the corner. But I had the pleasure of getting to know Kathy Small, the shy girl with glasses and braces from Cornish, Maine, who never quite fit in at school and sometimes had to collect aluminum cans on the train tracks just to scrounge enough money when she was younger. Kathy Small was also the girl who wanted to be a wrestler with such a genuine passion that she took out a bank loan to attend Steve Bradley's wrestling school in New Hampshire. When Kathy told me that she had taken out a bank loan to attend wrestling school, I can remember thinking to myself, wow, that's like the fucking dumbest thing I've ever heard. What bank gives someone a loan to attend wrestling school? Were they giving out loans for like clown college too? But upon further reflection, I came to realize that Kathy taking out that bank loan to attend wrestling school said so much about her dedication. Kathy did not get into the business for glamour, or the fortune, or the fame. She didn't get into the business just to use wrestling as a stepping stone on her way to become a fashion model or a Hollywood actress. No. Kathy got into the wrestling business because she wanted to be a professional wrestler. Not only did she want to become a professional wrestler, she wanted to be the best wrestler she could possibly be. And for those of you who may not know Kathy as well as I do, I am here to tell you that everything Kathy has done or will ever do in this business is pure. And if she is remembered for anything today, it should be that. Anyway, after several years, Kathy and I, our run together came to an end. I was fired from Triple W. My attitude sucks. And I was on my way out of the business anyway. But Kathy persisted. And after I was out of the business, I watched from afar as she went farther and achieved more than she had ever set out to do. I also watched Kathy get struck by some heartbreaking personal tragedies as her journey in wrestling continued. In 2008, Kathy's trainer and mentor, Steve Bradley, died tragically at the age of 33. And if that wasn't enough, Kathy's husband, Rhode, died unexpectedly just 6 years into their marriage. Just as anyone would be, Kathy was devastated by the deaths of these two people she held so dear. And hearing the news of Kathy's heartbreaking misfortunes confirmed something that I always suspected about one of the great injustices of life. The worst things happen to the best people. But it's the best people who can often manage those tragedies and rise to their occasion. Kathy did just that. After the death of her husband, Kathy and I got together at a restaurant to catch up and commiserate. I've been out of the business for a while, and the two of us hadn't seen each other for a while. During dinner, Kathy told me that ever since her husband died, it felt like the fire she had for wrestling was slowly burning out, which was understandable. I knew firsthand that the sudden tragic death of a loved one can take the spark out. But I also knew that hopelessness often gets better with time. I also knew that Kathy still loved wrestling and she was too good to quit. So, after downing a few drinks, I worked up the courage to pitch one more idea for Kathy's gimmick. And I actually thought of it on the car ride to see her. Like most of my thoughts and ideas, it was somewhat insensitive and slightly insane. I felt that pitching this idea was a bit of a gamble, but I pitched it anyway. Hey, I said to Kathy, have you thought about changing your name to like the Widow Belmont as a tribute to your husband? You could like wear a black veil and walk to the ring with a bouquet of dead flowers. And with that, Kathy's face lit up in a way that I hadn't seen in quite some time. Belmont was back. And she's here tonight, still persisting, still kicking ass. I adore this woman. I'm so proud of her and everything she's done in wrestling. Seriously, Kathy, no one deserves this tonight more than you. You are everything that is truly good about this business. Thank you so much for having me in your corner all those years, especially all those nights I was being a moody prick. And now, if you will join me in raising your glass, taking a bite, and howling to the night as we induct the Widow Belmont into the 2019 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame!
I sat down to write a speech and realized I hated it. I had so many people that I wanted to thank, and I'm not a big fan of talking about myself. So what I did is I just made a list of people that I want to thank, and I hope that I can make this quick and hopefully there's some humor in it. First of all, I just want to thank Joe Bruin. Is Joe in here? I think the message that you sent me was probably one of the most shocking messages I've ever gotten. I've always considered myself, I would say, unpassable at best. I'm a decent wrestler. I know where, in my mind I like to say that I know where I sit. And when you sent me your message, I thought it was a rib. And so thank you so much, Joe. This really is overwhelming and I'm incredibly humbled. When I started wrestling, I had this incredible support system around me. When I started training, I trained for about a year, and then I started doing shows for Sheldon Goldberg. I don't think Sheldon's here tonight, but he's one of the people. Sheldon's one of the people that means so much to me in this business. He gave me my first opportunities outside of Steve Bradley's promotion, and that means a lot to me. Matt West and Kyle White. I know Kyle couldn't be here. I don't think Matt's here, but I want to thank them. They had full confidence in me. I've never had a huge amount of confidence in myself. I've always, but they always did. They always had my back. They always, no matter what, they told me how good I was, and they believed in me. George Carroll, I love you. You've always been like, you're one of those people that have always believed in me, and that has always meant so much to me. After Steve died, I was at a loss as to where to go, and you kind of helped me. You gave me some tools that I was able to use, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you, George. Let's see. I have aside from Sean Gorman, I've had a couple of managers. I want to acknowledge them. Sammy Lane, she trained with me for years, and I always found it was interesting to have a female manager as a female wrestler. My time in chaotic wrestling, I had Adam Barisano. Adam Barisano we had a lot of fun. Currently, Ed Hunt, Uncle Ed, he has been my manager. Sean Gorman had wanted nothing more to do with professional wrestling. So I needed somebody that could kind of understand what I was going through in doing this new widow gimmick. And I've wrestled Ed, I've beat the shit out of him. And what better person to be in my corner than somebody that can take it like a champ and still be my friend. And of course, the manager champion, Sean Gorman. I don't really know what else to say that hasn't been said. I do have to say, one of my fondest memories that didn't make it into your book, damn it. You're supposed to go into the book. After the, is a title versus hair match with Alexis Nevaeh, when I beat her for the Triple W title. Sean was the one he actually had the confidence in me to go to Sheldon and Matt and Kyle and say, I think Kathy would make a great champion. I'm sure this is like, I'm going outside of kayfabe, and I'm sorry, but you deserve this. And he actually went to them and said, I think Kathy would make a great champion. And they were like, yeah, I think she would. And we did a title versus hair match. Everybody thought that Sean and I were going to get our heads shaved, and we didn't. And I remember after the match, we went up the ramp and went out to the back, and I started to cry. We were in the Quincy Armory, and they had we were downstairs. We had to go outside and up a fire escape to go to the gorilla position in the backstage area. And I went out onto the fire escape. I started to cry, and he came to me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, I'm actually more than okay. I'm just overwhelmed with emotion because somebody didn't look at me as somebody they wanted to sleep with, or I was a girlfriend or something. I won this title based because somebody had faith in me that I could wrestle and carry a title. And so he stood behind me. People came out because I was very emotional, and people thought that I was upset or I was hurt. He kept everybody away from me, and he said, just give her space. And it was one of those moments, and he said, someday when I write a book, this is going to be in it. And it didn't make it into the book, but I'm telling it now. Sorry. But I owe so much to Sean Gorman. I never would have come up with the Widow Belmont gimmick without Sean, and so I owe that to you. The white dress, the black veil, it's all Sean, so thank you so much. I need to thank, I trained 3 days a week in a horrible building that had no air conditioning, and it was almost 20 degrees hotter in the summer and 40 degrees colder in the winter, with those guys in that row right there. Those are my boys. I need to thank my brother, John. More faith in me than anybody. He's smart, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. I love my brother more than life itself. And I remember being in that sweaty ring with Spencer Eldridge, Ethan Davis, and Michael Roberts. We'd all roll around, it would be so friggin' hot and disgusting. We all smelled. It was awful. And John would be so sweaty you couldn't even hold on to him. And we would roll around, and they had so much patience with me. John was a natural at wrestling. Steve could stand outside the ring and say, do this, this, and this, and John could do it like that on the first try. I had to be all, so I put my hand here, And I'm still the same way. This man knows this. I'm still the same way. I'm incredibly mechanical. And I have to thank my original boys for just sticking it out with me. And they're here with me. I've known them for 15 years, and they mean everything to me. And I do have to say, I need to thank Steve Bradley. Steve Bradley was an amazing man. And he's gone, but certainly not forgotten. Some people have mentioned him here tonight. Some people have mentioned it to me personally. It means a lot to me hearing anything about Steve. And I'm very happy that we're keeping his memory alive. In wrestling, I've had 3 wrestling wives. For those that don't know, sometimes we refer to it as being married to somebody. It means you wrestle them all the time. You know each other very well. And I need to thank my 3 wrestling wives: Alexis Nevaeh, Alicia Edwards. Vanity Dixon, and my friend Jen. And then lastly, Davey Ann reminds me so much of myself. And watching her wrestle and watch how she's progressed, it makes my heart swell with pride. She's got a bright future. I also want to acknowledge some of the girls I've worked with in the past: Barbie Menigan, Mercedes KB, Casey Ray, and actually I want to acknowledge my new girls. I want to thank you, Isana and Sierra, for being here. I love you girls. I've been very lucky to have such. When I wrestle with you girls, it makes me realize why I love this so much. You girls have such a passion, and you try so hard, and I love working with you. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Joe Moakley, Mike Morris, Big Woody, Tarzan, Brian Malonis, Ken Kelly, Chase Del Monte, and Jamie Jamakowski from Chaotic Wrestling for booking me, for Todd Graham for booking me, anybody that I might have missed. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to work for your promotions. I also want to thank Rich Palladino for being the absolute best ring announcer. I love you so much. I would also like to thank Stephanie Riverdale for being a sweetheart. She let me beat the bag out of her like a couple weeks ago, and she survived. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I do want to acknowledge DC Dillinger. He's gone, but not forgotten. I want to thank TJ Richter for being awesome intergender matches with me. I need to thank my mom and dad. My dad, as some people know, is absolutely insane. And he just walked behind me. My dad's old, so he's got to the point where he doesn't give a crap anymore. So he'll just walk behind the curtain, and people are like, "You can't be back here." And he's like, "Look, I'm for my daughter, Mistress Belmont." And I have to thank my parents. They couldn't be here tonight, but Ethan's recording it for me, so thank you, Mom and Dad. I need to thank Demon Ortiz. You have been an amazing trainer, and several years ago I kind of lost my confidence and lost my passion for wrestling. And when Sean and I talked about the Widow Belmont gimmick, I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this right. I want to go back to practice, and I want to train with somebody that will help me develop this character. And going to your wrestling school has been absolutely incredible. You are an amazing teacher. And I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank Zach, my boyfriend. I didn't think that, after what I went through, I didn't think I would ever find somebody that I would have the same interest in and that could love me in the same way that I'm used to being loved. And so, I love you, baby. And let's get drunk and rip off a 10-speed. Thank you very much.
Hey, Kathy. Come on.